College sports today. Here's Brock Hewart and Ben Hartsock.
So, Ben, I was telling you last night, every once in a while I'll run into people, fellow at the Masters, Fox seminar, some of our colleagues in media, and they're like, oh, man, you and Hartsock just make me laugh. Oh, some of the stuff you say, and I'm like, oh, man, people are listening. Like, it's a reminder, like, dude, you got to be careful talking about zits and nose hairs and farts and our fart sound. Like, there's actually professionals out there, believe it or not, that listen to the show. So we do a segment like that, and I hope RJ, you weren't just listening, were you? You're too busy to listen, right? Don't you have other stuff going on? RJ Young from Fox Sports, you weren't just listening, were you?
No, I can't get Sirius XM, man. You guys are too highbrow for me.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you weren't. We were just confessing. On Thursdays, we do confessions, RJ. Before we get to sports stuff, do you have anything off your chest you want to confess? Something in your life? Ben was just sharing a real personal example under the roof, raising a teenage daughter. Do you have anything, before we get into sports, you want to confess?
No, I'm going to keep it as sports as I can here, Brock.
I'm going to lock it down. I'm good under.
Good. Well, I know this, RJ. I know this. You and I have crossed paths like the last 3 weeks. We were at Big 12 Media Days. We broke bread at dinner time, at Big 10 Media Days. Got to sit with some high-ranking officials. We had a Fox seminar. So I would love to know what the last 3 weeks, with everything that we've got to experience and witness and listen to, I'd like to know what RJ's learned this month of July and into August.
Nobody knows nothing. Nobody knows nothing, man. Like, outside of that, right? Like, I've learned that in my state, I'm the only person that is not excited about Oklahoma and the SEC. And I got to tell you, Brock, I'm not excited about this because I grew up an Oklahoma fan. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is my home. I went to the University of Tulsa for undergrad and went to the University of Oklahoma for grad school. It's in me. So when people told me, right, that we're going to the SEC, I said, oh, no. And I said, why are you saying, oh, no? I said, because I'm used to 12 wins every single year. 12, not 10, not 9, 12. I'm used to playing in the playoff, okay? We can talk about what happens once you get there, but I'm used to getting there. I'm used to 6 consecutive conference championships. I dare say, right here, with you and my man Ben Hartsock, it ain't going to be no 6 in a row for Oklahoma in the SEC. All right, guys? Like, I'm used to a certain level of winning.
So we've been talking with the listeners across the country, RJ, about whether or not there's a tipping point. I lost my cool on the show on Tuesday. I was just frustrated by everything was about anything other than football.
Right.
Nothing but name, image, likeness, transfer, all of these things, and I just kind of lost my composure. We've asked some of our fans, have you reached the tipping point? Have you reached the tipping point? Or if you haven't, is there a point that you say, listen, I can't take this anymore, I'm done with it?
Nah, man, I just turned 34 last weekend. I'm going to ride the wave for another 34 years at a minimum, all right? And that's what it is, right? It's riding the wave. And the way that I keep this stuff in perspective and I keep my head, keep my composure, is I have a sense of history, Ben. And 1984, the University of Oklahoma, University of Georgia sued the NCAA for the right to play college football on national television on Saturdays, right? And since then, we have been on this train that is all about football being on television. And because football's been on television, we've got better football, right? The way that I also couch this is we're going into what I believe is going to be the deepest college football season we've ever seen, based on skilled labor and the amount of skilled labor that we're about to have in this season. I'm excited for that. So when I need to be grounded, I remind myself I'm about to see some of the most fantastic college football that anybody has ever seen, and I make myself grateful for that. Does that help?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you. I know that it's the darkest before the dawn, RJ, and right now, tonight, we got the Hall of Fame game. So I think that the reason I broke down is you're hangriest right before you finally get your Hot Pocket, and I finally get a Hot Pocket tonight.
Hey, no, that's 100%. That's 100%. I'm with you.
I'm back to your first point, though. The first point that you said, which I think was a pretty good one and pretty profound, nobody knows nothing. That is what you're convinced of as much as anything else. When anybody tries to tell you they know where this market of NIL is going, when anybody tries to tell you they know where this transfer portal is going, when anybody tries to tell you they know where pay-for-play is going, or they try to tell you where expansion is going, I think I hear pretty loud and clear from R.J. Young of Fox Sports, none of them know anything.
Yeah, man, and the more that we talk about what could happen, right, the more possibilities seem to present themselves. You know, like we're just coming off of news of Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff and Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby breaking bread together and talking about stuff that Bob Bowlesby did not want to talk about with anybody else. So anybody knows what comes to that conversation. It could be, hey, we never met. I don't know you. You want to have dinner? Yes. It could be more than that. But what I try to focus on most is, all right, what are they going to say out loud once the thing happens? And then once the thing happens, how fast does this train move? Because the part about, I think, these particular instances that drive us crazy is our job is to see into the future, or prognosticate, right, is to project. A lot of what we do is say what is going to happen and not focus on what has happened. So when we get to focus on what has happened, most of the time, people are like, yeah, we know that too. Yes, but are we going to talk about what has happened, or are we going to talk about what we continue to think is going to happen? And I think that's what you're getting at, Ben, is so much of it is not playing football. So much of it is, okay, what happens when we're playing football in 2025? And I have to work very hard to talk about, yo, the Hall of Fame game is on tonight? Can we watch that? Is that going to be fun?
So let's ask a football question, RJ. Let's ask a football question. There are a bunch of blue blood programs that are going to have new starters under center. We know DJ Uiagalelei at Clemson. We know about Bryce Young at Alabama. Looking like C.J. Stroud, maybe somebody else at Ohio State, but we'll figure it out, right? Notre Dame looking like Jack Cohn. We'll see. A lot of new quarterbacks. Not all these guys are going to turn out to be Trevor Lawrence. Somebody's going to struggle. Who do you think's got the most likely, the highest likelihood of struggling this year?
Ooh, that's a very good question. And I'm going to point the finger, because you're asking me to point the finger, at the guy starting at A&M, whether it's Haynes King or not. I think that guy is going to be in over his head, because you're coming off of a 4-year starter in Kellen Mond. Jimbo Fisher is used to grooming quarterbacks, and I've openly wondered why Jimbo Fisher doesn't go the Lincoln Riley route and just go get the guy he knows he needs, as opposed to continuing to just focus on the guys he has in the room, which I think has its own merits, right? Obviously. But if you know you can go get somebody, go get somebody. But A&M expects to win the SEC West Division this year, and I'm going with a first-year starter at quarterback. I don't care how down Alabama is. LSU's going to be good. I know that Miles Brennan is lost for probably half the year. But Max Johnson is good. Ole Miss is good, and they believe in their guy in Matt Corral. I don't, but they do, right? You got the same thing happening in one way or another in KG Jefferson in Arkansas. It's not easy to walk through that division, so I'm going to point the finger at that dude. And the reason I'm not pointing the finger at Bryce Young at Alabama is because I know what's around Bryce Young. I know that when they get into a pinch, Bill O'Brien can tell him to hand the ball off 30 times to any one of those 3 tailbacks, and they'll be fine. I don't know that you can say the same thing about Isaiah Spiller or Aeneas Smith at A&M. So that would be my answer to you, Ben.
RJ Young here with us for a few more minutes. I was saying yesterday on the show with Horowitz, I did kind of some takeaways from our seminar. We all got a chance to get together, and it was a great time. Down in Arizona, the NFL guys commingling with the college guys, and just fun exchange, and we had some wonderful guests and everything else. And I said,
Brock.
Whoa.
You were next to RJ, right? You guys right next to close?
Yeah,
RJ,
close.
how big is Brock Heward? I don't know how many people realize how big
okay,
of a human
so
Brock
first of all, Brock, excuse me for saying this, but I'm 5'5", so everybody is larger to me. But Brock Heward is an enormous human being. He's so large. He's so large. All right, so, like, I've seen him next to Clad, right? And the Cladder's about, 6'1", 6'2"? And I'm looking at Brock look down at the Cladder, all right? Like, he's not a small man.
Oh, good. Okay, yes. Big hands, too. Big hands. We got big hands. I'm sorry. It's good. So, anywho, RJ, RJ, back to our wonderful time together where I was standing by you and hanging out and everybody else, and we had some great guests at the seminar. I got the vibe. Now, you're an Oklahoma guy, so maybe you didn't get this vibe. I got the vibe that a lot of our peers are buying what Steve Sarkisian was selling. I got the vibe that, man, if there's somebody that can Texas, not maybe what Mac Strong did for as long as Mac Brown did. If someone's going to turn it, Steve Sarkisian may be the man for it. That was the vibe that I got. Did a Oklahoma fan, Oklahoma rooted guy, Oklahoma alum get that same sense from our peers?
I got the sense that he was a dude, man. Like, I got to talk with him up close and personal for the number one ranked show. It's very cool. And I got the sense that this man is just a guy that likes to coach football, and he's going to talk with you straight. I love that for Texas. But the way that I always couch this is, who do you not expect to do a good job at Texas? And it's a very, very short list, right? And I don't think that anybody's comfortable giving that list, but you like to think that the three of us might do a good job at Texas, but that's not what you're being asked to do at Texas. You're being asked to win a national championship. That is the reason that job is so difficult. And there is no national championship if you can't roll over Oklahoma. So we're going to see it in October, and hopefully we get to see it in December if Texas fans have anything to say about it. But I thought the same thing about Tom Herman, man. Like, he won a national championship at Ohio State as offensive coordinator, just like Steve Sarkisian. All right? We all thought that Charlie Strong was the guy to get it done because we'd seen how Urban Meyer had stumped for him going, when's somebody going to hire my defensive coordinator to be a head coach in this league? And it happened. I'm saying there have been great coaches to come before Sark, and they haven't got it done. So, with that being said, is he going to win a national championship? I'm not so hot on that. Is he going to do a good job? Absolutely. Could they win 9-10 games? I think that they should. I think that should be what Texas is. But that, again, is not what you're being asked to do. So I get the sense that he's going to be fun, and he's going to be a great interview, and that's great for us. But how long is he going to not win a Big 12 championship, or in this case, an SEC championship, before they start to get real antsy again in Austin?
And it's a conversation Ben and I are going to get in over the last hour of the show today, because I was also sitting there listening to a few of our colleagues say, and in particular, some pretty experienced people say, hey, listen, I'm so tired of this whole narrative that the Pac-12 is just so far behind and never going to be able to turn around. But in reality, and this was, again, some of the perspective from some of our peers, the reality is Ohio State runs the Big Ten. And they've not had much competition. Oklahoma, as you said, is running the Big 12 without a lot of competition. Clemson's running the ACC, not a lot of competition. Alabama's running the SEC. And the difference with the Pac-12 is that USC is not held up their end of the bargain. The USC during the 2000s was running the Pac-12, thus on the same stage and maybe even a higher level than all those aforementioned teams with what Pete did in the 2000s. Any merit to that argument?
No, I would push back on that. Number one, I'm very high on USC going into 2021. I think what Clay Helton has done from a roster management standpoint this year is ridiculously awesome. They have a bunch of guys I'm very excited about. Malcolm X, Jake Smith, Keontae Ingram, all from Texas. Xavier Alford from Texas. Brew McCoy at wideout. Drake London's going to be a stud. Chris Steele at corner. I can keep going. But the other reason I'm into this is 2017, they finished number 3 in the country. They won the Pac-12. All they did was go undefeated into the Pac-12 championship last year, and then they lay an egg against Oregon. All right? And say what you want about Clay Helton, and people do, I might add, but that man is supposed to have been fired 4 out of the last 5 years, and he keeps coming back. And he goes from a 60-plus ranked recruiting class in 2020 to a top 10 ranked recruiting class in 2021. That's a heck of a turnaround for anybody, let alone at SC. So I think when we're talking about SC, we're talking about them the same way we're talking about Texas. It's not that you don't run the Pac-12, it's that you're not playing for national championships. Now, Oregon's come on, and that's okay. But I think we're going to talk differently about SC come November this year. I think we're going to talk about them and Oregon being the representatives from the Pac-12 for the first time since 2016.
You mean we get to talk football eventually?
Man, look, I am going to will it so.
We're going to talk football. Yeah, we're going to talk football with RJ. From the number one show from Fox Sports, RJ, it's always a blast when you come aboard. Thank you, my man.
Brock, Ben, I appreciate you guys. I had a great time. Thank you so much.